Greetings, humanities students. Before you dig in to the three important context texts that I've provided for us to read for this next class deadline, I'd like to talk about our textbook, 20th Century American Art, written by Erica Dose. In particular, I want to talk about the tools that she uses to help us put the artifacts of American art into American cultural context. This becomes an increasingly important objective in the course. And Dose gives us a good example of how to do this. You will notice that in her text, she has four basic strategies for providing contexts for the art that she discusses. One is she uses cultural context boxes where she defines terms. A second is her use of a extensive timeline in the back of the text, which is going to prove very valuable to us. The third is the narrative itself, where within her structure of analysis, she constantly returns to and reconnects with culture. And finally, an interesting sort of minor feature is the use of quotes from non-artists to give us a sense of how the ideas of art resonated in the larger culture. Let's take a quick look at each of these. You can see here what the cultural context boxes look like. In chapter 1, I only noticed 3. One was about a general historical period, the Gilded Age. The second was about a specific cultural phenomena, Jim Crow laws in the South. And the third was about an important idea from an American artist, the architect Louis Sullivan. So I think that these boxes are really important for us to pay attention to. They provide essential context for understanding the art that we're going to be looking at, not only in the chapter they discuss, but later. For example, Jim Crow is going to be essential for talking about the Harlem Renaissance, and form follows function is going to be a major idea in American architecture that we'll be chasing and tracing in the weeks ahead. There's a timeline in the back of the book that gives you year-by-year highlights from art history and from American cultural history. This can be really valuable when you're composing papers and exams in this class. But most importantly is the narrative in Doss's text itself. She consistently brings us back to what was happening in America at the time of this art and what the connection between the art and what's going on in America was. And so on this page, I've given a couple quotes from page 28 where she's looking at labor and capital and their relations and arguing that the World's Fair is deeply connected to the tensions between those two groups and the desires of the powers that be, the Chicago industrialists and others, to present a unified front to make it clear that capital and labor could work together to do beautiful things. Finally, another thing to keep an eye out for are a thing she'll use throughout the book, but especially in the early chapters, are interesting quotes from people that we don't consider artists. Frederick Douglass, I would consider him an artist because he wrote some amazing books, but not in the visual arts that Dose is talking about. So I would say here that this quote is really an interesting contextual clue for us. And I urge you to keep an eye out for quotes and passages like this. Just to sort of highlight how important this technique is for our author, look at the very end of the chapter, and there you find a long quote from Clarence Darrow about the responsibility of the artist for presenting the truth to his or her audience and viewers. So once again, just to sort of highlight what we've discussed, we've got four ways that Doss looks at context in the text. Context boxes, timelines, the narrative itself, and quotes from artists. Please pay close attention to these as you read the materials that present this week and in other weeks, and as you prepare for our quizzes. Thanks.